child's cognitive ability develops well. There are particular vitamins, minerals that are identified to enhance the cognitive ability of a child. But if the child doesn't receive the other nutrients, then those ones alone do not work.
Okay.
That is why we say a balanced meal will provide everything the child needs to grow.
And in terms of growth, you see some children, they look bigger than their age. And then you see some children, they look smaller than their age. And then some are just, okay, somebody, this kid is 4 years, it's okay. What accounts for that?
A child's physical nature is affected by a number of things. The genetics.
Right.
So if my parents were big, naturally, I would be expected to be big.
Right.
If my parents or my ethnic group seems to be smallish,
Right.
then I would, seem to go that way. The environment also counts.
Right.
So you will have a Chinese that is born in America, and then this Chinese grows, assumes the height of someone or an average child in America than an average child in China.
Right.
You have a Ghanaian who would have attained a certain height in Ghana, but is born in a different place and seems to, sort of. So the environment influences that. And then nutrition.
Nutrition.
So if your genetics are right, your environment is right, and you do not have adequate nutrition, you will not attain to your maximum.
What about children and medication? There's some parents, the child starts crying. The next thing is, hale parafio, hale grapotafio. There are parents like that.
Yes.
And sometimes they are first-time, parents, so they think that every cry, every tear, every whimper, whatever it is supposed to be connected to they wanting some medication to ease their pain. What advice do you have for parents who think along that route?
So medications are for particular purposes. If a child has any particular condition, then we give certain medications. Paracetamol for pain, for fever. Now, if a child doesn't have that condition that needs the medication, then we will not want to advise any mother to give that medication. And so we would say that if a child doesn't need medication, don't give it. If you are in doubt, see a specialist. See someone in that field who can give you advice.
Right.
And that's why we are here as pediatricians.
Fantastic. Children, and you've mentioned nutrition. There are parents who are vegetarians, who are raising children who they also think of or see as vegetarians.
Yes.
What do you say to that subject matter? Parents raising their kids as vegetarians because they themselves are vegetarians.
So you can have a balanced meals just from a vegetarian diet. And so the fact that you are vegetarian doesn't mean that you will not get nutrients that will make a balanced meal. And so if you are going by a strict vegetarian diet, they want to ensure that that diet is balanced. There are animal sources of protein and there are plant sources of protein.
Right.
So if you are going vegetarian, they want to ensure that the plant sources of protein are given to the child.
Are there nutrients that you can never get from plants which vegetarians would lack, and for which would not be good for the child in those formative years of their lives?
Sometimes a child can develop some deficiencies,
Right.
either from the diet, vegetarian diet, yes, and there are some nutrients that the child may lack. When they do, then we supplement. We have supplements that we can give.
Right.
If they're not getting it from their diet.
Parental care. We would ensure that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have the children because they're also going on midterm, so there's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have the playing area for them, etc. But when they're at home, away from school where it's much more structured, how should parents, in terms of raising the children right, be looking at their children?
Ensure they are in a safe environment. Ensure you spend time with them. Because we talked about cognitive development earlier.
Right.
A child cannot develop well if he doesn't learn how to behave
Right.
with towards other children
Right.
or towards other members of the family from the parents or the caregivers. And so as a parent, mother, father, your role is to be an example to the child
Right.
and to teach the child the right way to behave.
Let's talk about, and I'm happy you brought this up, raising your children. Sometimes the parents are too busy, and then they bounce the children off other families or other parents to say take care of them. You spoke about nutrition.
Yes.
And I want us to go back to that nutrition conversation. So in family A, where the child originally was brought up, they have foods that they are used to, that they like, that they eat, that it's been on a certain trajectory. Then occasionally they are tossed into these other families where they also have their own meal plans. Would that in any way affect the child in terms of how they grow up?
If the meal is balanced, it will not. Some children tend to be picky depending on what food you offer them.
Right.
So usually we advise start introducing diverse kinds of food early to a child. Let the child know that there are different kinds of food. These are the foods we eat, but these are others that are also available.
Right.
And once you keep introducing that food to the child, then they'll get to accept it. They may not eat so much as the food they used to eat in their first home, but with time, they adjust to the new foods that are being offered.
Right. How much sleep does the child need? Is it connected to their age? So let's say 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, maybe up to 12. How much sleep do they need? If you can do a breakdown for us, we'll be fine.
So for a newborn to an infant that's less than 1 year old, they can sleep up to 17 hours a day. So
17 hours because they have no work to do, they have no school. They just sleep, eat and sleep. 17 hours.
They just sleep. So they sleep, wake up, feed in between. For a child 1 year to 2 years, so that's a toddler. And they need about 12 to 15 hours of sleep out of the 24 hours. For a child 2 to 5 years, 9 to 12 or 13 hours of sleep is adequate. And if a child doesn't get adequate sleep, then it affects how they grow. It affects their behavior the next day. Once you don't get adequate sleep, your next day becomes a little bit disorganized. So they wake up feeling tired. They are not interested in their environment. They are not interested in any activity around. So they don't tend to develop well. So a child needs adequate sleep. Adequate sleep.
And that is if the parents are also getting the right amount of sleep.
Exactly.
So, but if your parents are hustlers, you cannot be thinking of sleep. That's where the thing is. In terms of, so there's always the question of child labor, and then you teaching your children psychomotor skills and skills of life. So they helping you on the job. If you're a pediatrician, if you take your child to the hospital, say, oh yes, yeah, she's learning. If a carpenter takes the son to the workshop, say, child abuse, or maybe to the farm. I mean, in all of these things, I know we've spoken about cognitive, development and etc. In closing, should parents be dragging or tagging along their children to their workplaces just to give them skills of life, or should they avoid it altogether from a pediatrician's point of view?
When the children go to that workplace, are they going to be engaging in anything that's supposed to bring economic benefits to the parents? No. So a child is supposed to be appropriately exposed to your place of work if it is safe. I wouldn't routinely bring my child to my work environment because there are children who come there with who are sick. They come with various kinds of conditions. Now, if a child who is not sick is being exposed to this kind of environment, this child is possibly going to get sick from being there. And so if your workplace is safe and you want your child to come around, observe, see how people work, depending on the age. For instance, you can have an adolescent that can come and be sort of an intern, just learning from one person or the other, not exactly from you at your workplace. So the child can come and just observe how someone is sitting behind the computer, running a program. And that is, just appropriate for age, but not as an economic sort of like to go and earn money to come and support the families. And so in that case, then that would be child labor.
Final question to you. Maybe I'll leave it. I'll leave this one. Doctor, thank you very much. I'll leave this question. If I ask this question, I'll be in trouble. So let me leave this question.
All right.
I'll leave it. But Doc, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
We're grateful. We'll see you. And be good.
Thank you very
That's
much for having us.
Great. And that's our show for today. Somebody just sent a message. Is asking if a pediatrician should always be there. How often should, let me put it this way, how often should parents take their children to see pediatricians? Is it only when they are sick? How often?
So we usually schedule visits. From when a child is born, we have a newborn visits. We schedule for immunization visits for when a child is assessed for developmental issues. And then we have scheduled for when, let's say, a child has a certain illness.
Right.
Then we want to schedule visits.
Right.
So, but usually, once in a year or two, you can come around and let's assess your child and see how your child is doing.
Thank you very much, Doc. We're grateful.
Thank you.
We have to go. Time is up. Crosby Annan is ready with a news update. See you tomorrow. Be a Throwback Thursday. My name is Johnny Hugh.